Hey guys, welcome to Interesting Video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Jhin updated complete guide, of course, for the latest patch. But as usual, before we really jump into any of the nitty-gritty details, refer to Jin's basic guide for his skills, living order, tips and tricks, as well as a couple of combos. I'm gonna chuck that up in the cards above right now, so check that out if you have not yet done so. Anyways, let's just get straight into the build, right? So, name of the game for Jhin is burst damage. You want to be one-shotting people. You want to just be doing as much damage to them as possible, right? So, you can see your build basically is going to start off with the boost of dynamism for the early armor pen. Jhin, of course, is a very strong early game. You want to take advantage of that to snowball and also just to just deal damage in the laning phase. Then you're going to go into collector first item, right? Because nowadays you kind of want to go, you always want to go for collector early as your first or second item, but now even more so down that you actually want to stack the collector. And the main reason you're going for collector is you really don't have a lot of other better options. It's really because it gives you both crit and lethality, which is really nice for Jhin. And if you don't go for collector, what are you going to go for? Maybe bloodthirster, I guess, but collector is better for the snowball potential. And then next up you go for Blaster. Now you used to go for IE second. You can still go for IE second, but Blaster is not a good second item because number one, it now gives AD other than purely giving attack speed. It also gives you that burst damage now on your auto, which is what Jhin really likes. That used to come from Stormrazor. So with Blaster, you get, of course, better wave clear, you get the bonus range, you get the burst damage, and now you get AD as well, just all the good stuff, right? Then, of course, standard IE as a third item, just for increased crit damage, as well as Mold Reminder as your last item, just for the armor pen and grievous wounds. Now, last item, you really have a couple options, right? So first, you can go for a defensive options, for example, items like Maw, GA, etc. Or you could go for 125% crit, because obviously now IE is now going to convert bonus crit into extra crit damage. So you could even go for Bloodthirster as a last item instead of a defensive item, right? Because Bloodthirster is kind of a defensive item when you really think about it, because it does give you that shield, right? So it is kind of a defensive item. You could go for that last item, and it also gives you just a bunch of AD. It's just really good of an item. And something I just want to point out, but not suggesting it, is in case you guys didn't know, Soul Transfer actually kind of works on Jhin. Right, so it's going to scale off of your attack damage and your crit, right? And the clones don't actually need to reload. So they're just going to fire off, because they're not even really going to get 4 shots off most of the time, but they're just going to fire off and you're not actually going to need to reload. So it is an item that does work on Jhin, but I wouldn't say it's a OP item on Jhin or anything like that. It just works, right? But you don't actually have to go for it, which I don't. So for the runes, Fleet for the movement speed and the healing. And then other than that is the standard loadout, except instead of Alacrity, I like to go Bloodline for extra healing because I really don't have any healing in my build. But you can see most people actually like to go for Alacrity, right? On your first item slot, Brutal kind of sucks because you attack really slow. However, the alternatives of Triumph and Gathering Storm are not that great either, so it's really just your preference. And of course, you have Bone Plating for the defensive capabilities. Finally, you want to go for Flash and Cleanse if you need it. If you don't need Cleanse, you can go for Ghost or something more defensive like Exhaust or Barrier if you need it. But with that said, let's move on to talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now moving on to the gameplay. Of course, as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Of course, you guys know I'll be sure to address them or drop a like. So, funny thing is, I actually thought I went to the wrong lane because I saw this Maokai skin and I'm like, wait a minute, am I in the top lane? And he backpinged me and I was like, wait a minute, am I wrong in that? I was like, wait a minute, but that's not Pantheon, that can't be Pantheon. So then he transforms, Transformer style, and I was like, wow, okay, that's actually Maokai. So that's kind of funny. I've never seen this Maokai skin before up till now. So yeah, that's a pretty funny one. But anyways, back to the topic of Jhin. Now basically Jhin has not really changed all that much from last patch in terms of how good he is, in terms of what he builds. He pretty much has the same build, only swapping around 2 items. You could still go for the Bloodthirster build as your build, like Bloodthirster first item and such, but the main reason why Bloodthirster first item is just not as good on Jhin is because Jhin really loves the early game snowball, right? He loves getting the early lethality and the snowball potential from Collector compared to the extra like safety and just pure AD from the Bloodthirster. Now I still think the Bloodthirster build is fine to go for, but I just don't think it's the best build on Jhin, right? So how strong is Jhin as a champion? I played a couple of games on Jhin. Now, I don't think he's that amazing. I don't think he's horrible either. So he's just kind of middle of the pack, right? He's not like bottom tier ADC. He's not top tier ADC. He's just middle of the pack kind of situation, right? If you're good on Jhin, if you like Jhin, you can play him. He's gonna work out fine most of the time. You might get a little bit outclassed by some of the better ADCs, but it's not unplayable. It's not like he sucks or anything like that. Probably, if anything, it's probably only Kalista that's really bad. Maybe Twitch as well. These two champions are not doing very amazing right now. As Maokai is going in onto MF, I'm going in onto Karma, who's the lower target. And we're kind of a little bit desynced, and now Masti is coming in when there's really nothing to do anymore. And yeah, it's not that good, right? We're very uncoordinated here. He whacks Karma away from my root, and yeah, it just continues like the poor coordination. Now here, the misfortune gets slowed by the sapling of Maokai, preventing her from chasing me. If she kept chasing me there, I would have had to flash. So actually Maokai sapling saved me from having to use my flash, because I'm really low, of course, and I'm very greedy for the wave. I just need to not be in a position where MF can bounce onto me. Actually, I don't think the bounce even kills me at this point, because I just got a level up. And even before that, I think it was a bit 50-50 on whether the bounce kills me. Of course, after the nerf, the bounce doesn't actually do that much damage compared to the last patch. But yeah, so I'm no longer going to push my luck, and I'm just gonna get the reset. I actually get spotted here by the vision plant, and MF actually does get the E off on me, but for some reason my recall still completes, but the E damage comes in when I reach the base, right? So I get my home guard destroyed. You can see I'm way slower than Maokai, despite the fact that I've completed boots, because I didn't get the home guard, but I still complete my recall, right? So I don't lose on any tempo, and I'm really happy about that. Right now, MF herself has recalled, and in the meanwhile, we have the wave kind of frozen outside of our tower. We don't really need to do anything to the wave, and just kind of let it remain where it is, like so. And then we set up some traps here to kind of slow down a potential gank from Mbessa. Now Maokai goes in onto MF. This time I wait for the CC to complete before I launch my root. MF is forced to flash as well as barrier. That's a pretty nice engage by Maokai. Gets a couple of key cooldowns off of MF. Of course, those summon spell cooldowns very important for the safety. She's now pretty low. Now Karma gets engaged on. I don't get the root on her, I think. She does a decent amount of damage to myself and to Maokai as well. I see MF recalling under the tower. I'm trying to snipe her out, but she realizes that she can just pop her W and run away out of the triangle of doom. And I get the last shot onto the Karma. The Maokai goes in onto the Karma, but Karma gets off a root. Thankfully, I don't tank tower as I get rooted there, and I autoed her. And here Mbessa is now coming in. Thankfully, Mbessa doesn't have ult, which I didn't know in the game itself. However, since that she doesn't need ult, she's going to run me down without the ult. Anyway, I try to root her, but it doesn't really work. And yeah, that was brutal. We just get completely destroyed there, and we are not having a good time in the lane. Now Masti here, waiting, biding his time. I believe that the Maokai was trying to cancel the W there by trying to cancel the root by popping his W, but he actually mistimed it and he gets rooted after he comes out of the untarget ability. A little bit unlucky, but good attempt by the Maokai. So now I'm making my way back to the lane. Obviously, MF and Karma are just coming off of their death. So I'm having a pretty good time just farming the minions there, being undisturbed. I even have time to get in some deep vision, and by deep vision I mean putting down one of my traps there. I pop the Squire's Bloom, number one to prevent my ward from being spotted, but number two to find enemy wards as well, which turns out there are none of. And Maokai is roaming, so I'm just trying to not walk out. I'm just waiting on the tower to collect these minions and hopefully not get dived by Karma and Mav, which I do think that it is possible to complete a dive with that pair, especially if they are brave enough to try to dive. And here once again, just collecting minions, nothing too big. Getting chunked out by MF though from those bounces. And here Maokai goes in. I'm just gonna force shot and run away. Now unfortunately, I was just trying to get off a short trade there, but what actually ends up happening is I end up just getting bursted down by MF ulti, because obviously while MF is rooted there, she can still get off her ult. So I end up dying there, Maokai ends up dying there, and that turns out to be a really poor engage at the grand scheme of things because we both ended up dying from it, and I probably shouldn't have gone up to poke there. So I guess the mistake there was following up on the engage, right? Because you can't control whether Maokai engages or not, right? But since he did engage, I should have just stayed back and not followed up there with the root and such, because I thought we could get a free, like, you know, free trade onto them, but it was not free at all. We paid for it with our lives, and obviously the trade means nothing now because they're going to reset and get back to full health. Now, enemy team is doing dragon, our jungler is nowhere to be seen, so the most we can do is to trade kills for the dragon, which is what we do. We get the kill onto Twisted Fate, and make sure the enemy pays for the dragon with 1 life, right? Better than none. So here we're gonna recall, we pick up the collector completed. We're 0, 2, and 1, though not the best, state that we have been in. But, you know, with the collector, hopefully we can, you know, kind of execute a couple of people with it. Farming the minions once again. Nothing too exciting is happening here now. You don't really get to see Jhin's early game strength this game because MF herself is very strong in the early game as well. So strong champion versus strong champion in the early game, you can't really see the strength of it. But of course, MF is a stronger champion than Jhin, right? So you also have that, right? MF is just a better, stronger early game champion compared to Jhin. Does have less utility than him in general. However, of course, does do more damage than him, right? And that's kind of the key thing right now, right? MF does a ton of damage even after those nerfs, so she is a really strong champion. Middle turret is under attack. Now we're kind of in a little bit of a 1v1. Now I actually have a little bit more gold than her. We are both at our first item, and we both have very similar builds, right? Both have lethality boots, we both have a lethality first item. Although I would think Duskblade is a way stronger item versus Collector in a like pure 1v1 situation, right? So here I get zoned away from the fight, so instead I'm gonna actually pop the ult and contribute to it by landing a couple shots into the back of Karma. MF tries to flash and barrier but still dies to mastery anyway. And here Rip buff is up, so I'm gonna go grab myself the Rip buff. Top turret is under attack. And here we're gonna force the mid lane tower because we have the numbers, and even if Vladimir and Twisted Fate come, it doesn't really matter. We'll still be able to actually secure it, which we do. Not much the enemy team can do about it. I don't actually really need to reset, but I kind of don't really have anywhere to go, right? I don't really want to go bot because the wave is a bit too far pushed up. Now, speaking of pushed up, I'm not sure what's happening there with Karma, right? Karma steps up, but I kind of mess up myself there by... I try to flash away before Twisted Fate could cart me, but I end up flashing after he already locks on the auto attack, so I end up basically flashing nothing and just wasting flash basically. Speaking of flashing, Pantheon flashes the wall as Ambessa engages onto him. And speaking of engage, MF gets completely destroyed by 3 people in the mid lane. Pantheon, Maokai, and Zyra. All of them have CC, can lock her down, and they did. And she was going nowhere except back to the fountain in a body bag. And now we're going to clear out the bottom lane. And Twisted Fate actually got the recall. Now in the game itself, of course, I wouldn't have known he recalled. So I was actually being a little bit cautious to stand towards the left because I'm thinking he might be trapping in one of those bushes in the river. But I guess if he was, he would have sprung the trap by now. So I did think he was not there anymore after I cleared the wave. But while I was clearing the wave, I was like, you know what? He might be in there. Speaking of which, he's going to face check here into this bush. I'm actually busy reloading. And here, he stuns me. I cleanse it. And I'm able to get out that last auto to finish the kill on him. 400 gold into my pocket. Really nice gold injection. And despite the not too hot KDA, we're actually doing pretty well. In a sense that, like, despite, you know, being 2, 3, and 2, we have 2 items completed already. We have 7k plus gold, which is decent given the game state, right? We have more gold than both MF and Karma at least. And we're able to kill that pretty fat Twisted Fate, get him off the map. Now we're going to join our team in the mid lane, see if we can do anything. In the meantime, Pantheon is dying in the top lane. 1v2, Twisted Fate is ulting, so this could be a odd number fight pretty soon. Here comes Twisted Fate with a stun onto me. Gets a decent chunk onto me for a 3rd HP. Here picking red buff, I'm walking the long way around because obviously all the enemies are coming there. I don't want to blast plant to the pit because I would be stuck there. And it turns out it was the right decision because here I'm basically just, I wouldn't say free hitting, but I'm able to blast from the backline, get rid of the Mbessa. But in the meanwhile, my entire rest of the team dies. Vladimir ults the Master, he gets a triple. And here, honestly, I think I could have played it a bit better, right? So here, I rooted him outside the tower range. And as a result, he's scared off and Pantheon ults in. He's running the hell away. But if I just, you know, had a little bit more confidence in myself that I could land the root, which may or may not have been the truth. But if I let him get closer to me and step in tower range and I root him under tower, I think he tanks at least 2 tower shots and I think he dies, right? I think we kill Vladimir there if I was a little bit more confident that I could root him under tower. Now, I did think that I shouldn't wait, as in the thought process did cross my mind, but I was like, you know what, let me just guarantee the root and land the root to kind of dissuade him from going for me. Instead of greeting to get the kill, which I think in this case is probably actually the right thing to do. Sometimes greeting for kills is the correct play, but a lot of times it's not, right? So here, speaking of which, Vladimir getting caught, getting rooted by me, but does pop the pool. He tries to go for me, I Gale Force away, and he ends up dying to Master Yi. So something I didn't really mention in the build section of the video that I will mention now is I love going Gale Force on Jhin, right? Because Jhin has a very nice like Gale Force combo, which is basically just Gale Force 4th shot, right? Because Gale Force and 4th shot both do missing health damage. So what you can actually do is when the enemy team is decently low, you can Gale Force forward to get the bullets into them and then 4-shot them to execute them based off missing health. So here Kama once again stepping very far out for no reason. I'm not going to get caught by her, so I'm just going to auto her like once or twice and step out of the root range and let my team finish her off. So now I'm going to pop the ulti there and start blasting into the enemy team. And we're able to slow down the Mbessa long enough for my team to catch up and pick up the kill. And then now we're going to move on to doing the Baron. Of course, the Mbessa jungle is dead, so this should be a free Baron. Master Yi secures it. We get the root onto Twisted Fate, flash over, just finish the kill onto him, Q auto there. Now Vladimir is going to be the next target. He's caught between us and safety, but Maokai doesn't really cut off his escape properly because Maokai is actually kind of low, right? So he's a little bit afraid, I guess, that he's going to get killed by Vladimir, so he doesn't want to risk it. Now Maokai goes in on Vladimir as Vladimir goes under tower, baits the Vladimir out a little bit, and I'm able to Gale Force auto him 4th shot to nearly one-shot him there. Here Mbessa's now coming in. She doesn't ult me. I had my finger on the cleanse, but she doesn't ult me. Now here she actually baits Vladimir to step up, which I get the kill on Vladimir. 4-shot Mbessa and actually pick up the double kill. Really nicely played by myself, if I do say so. And here you can see I'm just wasting time waffling around, right? I want to go for tower, there's no minions. I go and ward the bush. Now I'm deciding whether or not to join Zyra in mid because Twisted Fate is ulting, and I'm thinking that, you know what, my time is better spent here destroying this tower instead of going mid, which is exactly what I'm doing. So I get my last shot onto the tower. Tower goes down, clear of the wave, and we have Baron reset, so we can just reset in a little bit more of a dangerous area like here, and then we can just get off the recall, pick up the entire IE, 3 full items now, 6, 3, and 6 now. We've come a long way from like what we were like 1 and 3. I think just now we're 6 and 3, so now we're in a way better spot than what we were previously. Now my team is busy counter jungling the enemy team. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna secure ourselves the red buff. And with Baron, we should be pushing, but no one is really pushing. They're too busy counter jungling enemy jungle. So I'm gonna push down the mid lane and join my team in the bot lane. Because a fight may break out here, so I want to be with my team. But the whole enemy team is actually in the mid lane, so I'm not sure what my team is doing there. When you can see the whole enemy team is not gonna walk past that bush that they're camping in. So now Dragon has spawned. We're all taking up position, holding the position in the Dragon pit, trying to force the enemy team to enter. Of course, I have the traps at the choke point. Vladimir takes a huge chunk as he tries to face check and enter. I try to Gale Force to get rid of the MF there. We end up getting kills onto 3 people, and only Mbessa and TF are left alive. I notice Mbessa is smacking me while I'm in my ult, so I actually have to end up cancelling it, and we take out the Mbessa. Just to face the last guy standing. Master Yi is going in very deep, as is Pantheon. Sorry, that's not Master Yi. Maokai, sorry, as well as Pantheon's going in very deep. They end up getting the Twisted Fate, but it's a 1-for-1 trade. But it's all good because at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, it's a 2 for 5 trade. My entire team is still alive. Now here I get the tier 2 tower, which is again another solo bounty, not bounty, but solo goal for myself, because I also got that from the tier 2 top. And now I'm gonna go for the inhibitor. There we go, inhibitor secured. Again, even more gold for myself. Really happy about that. Taking out this little, I don't know, fairy thingy on the way back out. Now we're going to get off the reset. And we're able to get our entire Mold Reminder off of those kills, as well as those kills on the tower, putting us to 100% crit. And Jhin's autos hit like a truck, right? He does like close to 1,000 damage per auto, just because of course, him attacking slow and having higher damage autos. So he hits really hard, right? He does a lot of burst damage. I think late game Jhin is actually pretty scary. Jhin is typically not really a late game champion, but I think that in this current version of him, his late game is really strong. Twisted Fate, with a horrible out, I'm just going to try to snipe him out. We get him eventually, like so, and we have a numbers advantage for Baron now, with TF now dead, right? And here, another fight is breaking out. We get pulled in, Gale Force forward, Q onto Vladimir, we pick up the kill as he flashes, and here Karma is running away. Right, so here I was trying to find Karma by Wing the bush, warding the bush, checking inside the bush. I don't know where she went, but turns out she actually was walking all the way over there. She's actually walking past the minions on vision. Now I decide she's not worth the effort. She's 2 and 8. Probably getting Baron is going to be more worth it, so we get the Baron. Now that you've gotten that though, I'm trying to check if she's in that bush recalling. She probably completed her recall already, so we end up recalling ourselves and picking up the Hex Drinker. Now once again, Bloodthirster as a last item here is actually really good as well, but I decided to go for Hex Drinker just for the extra level of safety from TF as well as Vladimir. Both of them are probably doing the best on their team now for the most part. TF ults into Zyra to kill Zyra, and Maokai is running down the TF. TF is living on 1 HP. Have my Gale Force and Flash if I was in position, but I don't think it's worth popping both Gale Force and Flash just to kill that TF. Pantheon is ulting into the entire enemy team, is getting kind of focused by them, and here I pop the ulti, but Ambessa once again is next to me. I'm gonna have to flash away. Ambessa dodges my route there with one of her dashes. Now here we Gale Force forward, kill the Ambessa, and now we're trying to get off just our damage onto anybody. We get a couple of autos onto the MF, and we are gonna allow our Mastery to finish the job there. By the way, guys, that auto target sucks. It auto targeted to the Wolves instead of one of the 3 champions that I could have hit, so that kind of is what it is, and we get the win here. So I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.